This video goes over section 1.5. Number 11 asks about the perimeter and area. We know that this is x because these marks match up, and this is x plus 6. So if we want to find the perimeter, we just add all of these together. Or 2 times x plus 2 times x plus 6, if you prefer to do it that way. If I combine my x terms, I get 4x plus 12 for the perimeter. For the area, I multiply length times width. So when I distribute, x times x gives me x squared, x times 6 gives me 6x. And that's my area. For 13, we needed to use the area formula for a triangle, which is base multiplied by height divided by 2. And since we have 32 triangles, we can multiply this value by 32. So 3 times 1.5 gives us 4.5, or 2.25 multiplied by 32, which gives us 72. And remember, this is area, so we'll call this inches squared. For 15, we want to figure out the circumference in the area. So if the diameter is equal to 12.5, that means that the radius is half of that, so 6.25. So one of the formulas for circumference is pi multiplied by diameter. If I take that in the calculator and I round to the nearest tenth, I end up with 39.3 meters. For area, I'm going to take pi r squared, which means pi times 6.25 squared, and this gives me 122.7. And since this is area, it's feet squared. I guess this was feet, not meters. 17, area for a square is s squared, so this is 9.1 squared, 82.81. 19, area of a triangle is base times height divided by 2. So if I plug in those values, I have 5 1/2 times 2 1/4, all divided by 2. If I simplify, I end up with 6.1875 inches squared. So if I set up my rectangle, I know that my length is 20.3. I have an unknown width, and I know my total area. So if I use the formula, length times width is equal to area, I can plug in 2 of these values. To figure out the missing one, I divide both sides by 20.3, and x is equal to 17.1 centimeters, which is the width of the rectangle. For 23, which is about error analysis, we have to pay close attention to this diagram. 8 is equal to the diameter, which means if we wanted to find the radius, it's half of that. So 4 is equal to the radius. Keeping this in mind, for part A, they plugged in 8 for the radius, and that's why it's wrong. Because r is equal to 4, not 8. For 25, we're to find the area of a circle with a radius of 3y. So if we're going to use pi r squared, that's going to be pi times 3y squared. So 3 squared is 9, y squared is y squared, and then we'll just put the pi typically at the end. Since we don't know what y is, we can't find the actual area, but that's the closest we can get. So for 41, if our circumference is 14, I can plug that into the equation that the circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. So if 14 is equal to pi d, I know that 14 divided by pi is equal to my diameter. Similarly for 43, if c is equal to pi times diameter, and I can plug in 50 pi, then if I divide both sides by pi, I get that my diameter is 50. For 47, area of a circle is pi r squared. So I know that I can plug in this 452 inches squared over here for the area. And I'm trying to figure out what r is. So if I divide both sides by pi, I get that r squared is equal to 452 divided by pi. And then if I take the square root of both sides, I get that r is equal to the square root of 452 divided by pi. If you did this in your calculator, you get 11.99, pretty much B. For 48, we can draw our rectangle, and we know the proportions, that the length is twice its width. So if this is our length, we can call that in terms of 2W, and this is just W. This is our length over here. It's twice as long as our width. So if we wanted to figure out the length of the rectangle, we can add all these up, and we know that all the sides and lengths added together, lengths and widths added together, is equal to 48. So if 6W is equal to 48, W is equal to 8. The length is twice its width, so the length is equal to 16. Plugging the values from the figure into our area equation, we have area is equal to base times height divided by 2. So here the height is x plus 2, and the base is 4x. We don't see exactly that over here, but then we can distribute, and this is equal to 4x squared plus 8x divided by 2. And if we divide both of these by 2, we end up with 2x squared plus 4x. A. So to figure out how we'd use this 30 feet piece of string, we look at the circumference and perimeter of each of these shapes. So for F, C is equal to 2 pi r, which in this case would be 74.4 pi inches. If we converted that to feet, it would just be under 20, which is not 30, so F is not correct. If we look at G, we're considering 6 plus 6 plus 5 plus 5, and this is still in feet, so this gives us 22 feet, which is not the right answer. For H, we're looking at 9 plus 9 plus 9, which is 27, which is not the right answer. By process of elimination, that gives us J, but just to double check the math, we would take 90 inches times 4, which gives us 360 inches, and we divide that by 12, we get 30 feet.